Hey guys, so before we get into the video, I just wanted to quickly let you all know about the giveaway that I'll be running on today's video. So for today's video, I'm going to be giving away more of the League Partner codes. These codes unlock either Coven LeBlanc or Dark Star Mordekaiser, whichever the winner decides. All you have to do for a chance to win one of these codes is leave a like on the video, make sure that you are subscribed to the channel, and drop a comment down below letting me know what region you're in. Best of luck in the giveaway and enjoy the video. What's going on, Nasteey Nation? It's Nasteey, and in today's video, I'll be going over my in-depth guide to playing Senna. Senna is intended to be played as both an ADC and a support, but since the playstyles on both of these roles are practically identical, I'll be covering both of them in this video. This guide is going to go over abilities, runes, builds, skill order, matchups, combos, and many more things that'll help take your Senna to the next level. With all that being said, be sure to leave a like on the video. If you do go on to enjoy or find it helpful, be sure to drop a comment down below letting me know what champion you'd like to see me do a guide for next. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. That should just about do it for this little introduction, so without further ado, let's get into the video. First up, let's go over the abilities. It seems like every champion Riot releases these days has a super overloaded kit, but I think they actually did a pretty good job when it came to making Senna. Her abilities are fairly straightforward, but complex enough to leave enough room for a learning curve. Senna's passive is Absolution. This allows Senna's auto attacks and abilities to apply mist to an enemy. Hitting the same target again within the next few seconds will then collect the mist and deal bonus percentage of the target's health. The same target cannot be collected more than once every few seconds. This is extremely useful in the lane phase when going for small trades. Going in, proccing your mist, and healing up with Q before backing out will almost always result in a winning trade. The second part of Senna's passive allows her to collect and stack mist that drops on the ground. Mist has a 100% chance of dropping when a champion or large monster dies, a 100% chance to drop 2 mist when an epic monster dies, around a 20% chance when a minion dies near Senna, and around a 1% chance when Senna kills a minion herself. Each stack of mist will grant bonus attack damage, and every 20 stacks will grant bonus attack range and crit. Gaining more than 100% crit will then convert excess stats into lifesteal. This aspect of Senna's passive is extremely useful on both support and ADC, but it definitely favors the support role. Since the ADC is the one farming, it can be very difficult to get that mist drop with just a 1% drop rate when you are the one that is killing the minion as Senna. This is intended to balance out Senna on both roles, given Senna as an ADC will then have the farm and the extra items to help with damage, while Senna as a support won't have the same gold income and thus relies on stacking mist to do damage. The final part of Senna's passive allows her basic attacks to deal bonus damage and grant a small burst of movement speed. Senna has an extremely low fixed auto attack speed, so this was implemented to help her be a little bit more mobile after each auto attack. Senna's Q is Piercing Darkness. This is a point and click ability that shoots a piercing shadow through allies and enemies. Piercing Darkness's range will match Senna's attack range, and its cast time is improved by attack speed. The shadow will heal all allies that it passes through, including herself, while dealing damage to enemies. This ability can be cast on champions, minions, monsters, wards, towers, blast cones, and just about anything in the game that you'd be able to auto attack. On top of that, auto attacks also reduce the cooldown of this ability by 1 second. If you've ever used Lucian's Q, it's pretty much the exact same animation, just slightly longer and with different effects. When playing Senna, make sure to use this ability aggressively to trade with your enemy, even though at times you'll use this ability simply for the sake of getting a heal off. More times than not, you'll want to use it for the damage. It's not the type of ability where you can just sit in lane and sustain with it, so don't expect that to work. If you want to get the full effectiveness of this ability, you'll have to step up and go for trades and skirmishes that allow you to win not only by out-damaging, but also by out-healing your opponent. Senna's W is Last Embrace. Casting this ability sends forward a wave of black mist, latching onto the first enemy hit. After a brief delay, the target and all enemies within a brief distance will be rooted in place. Last hitting an enemy will proc this ability immediately. This ability has the exact same range and speed as Lux's Q and Morgana's Q, so keep that in mind if you have experience playing these champions. Last Embrace isn't Senna's strongest ability, but it definitely helps when it comes to peeling and kiting back. This ability can be used in the lane phase to initiate fights, but it's most effective when using it on frontline threats in teamfights later in the game. Senna's E is Curse of the Black Mist. Casting this ability will channel a storm around Senna, gaining movement speed and camouflaging all allies that enter the storm. Allies who leave the storm grant a burst of movement speed while being untargetable and disguised as a wraith. This ability will be used more times than not for the movement speed bonus alone, but it can also be used to help your team engage due to the storm making it near impossible for enemies to see who is coming after them. Due to the channel time of this ability, it's not super effective when used in the middle of a fight, so try to utilize this ability to set up for fights instead. Senna's ultimate ability is Dawning Shadow. This is a global ultimate that sends a holy array of shadow and light that damages all enemies and shields all allies it passes through. Players caught in the center will take additional damage. This ability can be used to snipe off kills or aid an ally in a close fight from across the map, but more times than not you'll want to save it for team fights. Lining up this ability to shield multiple allies while damaging multiple enemies in a team fight can be an absolute game changer, so be sure to use it wisely. This ability has an extremely long cooldown, so you won't get any second chances if you mess it up. Be patient and look for the right moment before you pull the trigger, and it will definitely pay off. The standard max order for Senna is Q, W, E with a point in her ultimate whenever possible. Although her playstyle may be unique, Senna is still a marksman at her core, which means damage will always be her main priority. It's for this reason that the Q max works best. W comes next in the max order and E comes last simply due to the fact that putting points in E doesn't really benefit you all too much while putting points in your W does. My go-to rune page for Senna starts in the inspiration tree with Glacial Augment. When Senna first came out, everyone was running Airy and it was decent, but ever since people discovered Glacial Augment on her, she's pretty much just been on another level. Glacial synergizes extremely well with Senna's slow auto attack animation, allowing her time to chase down enemies and land her abilities for free. Following that, I would recommend Magical Footwear, Biscuit Delivery, and Approach Velocity. Senna is a super immobile champion and Magical Footwear will help grant a bit of extra movement speed. Biscuit Delivery gives early game sustain and additional mana to help with Senna and her mana problems. And finally, Approach Velocity. It honestly isn't the best, but it's the best of the three options in this row, and it will still help from time to time. For the secondary rune page, I recommend Precision with Presence of Mind and Legend Alacrity. Presence of Mind is another rune that helps aid mana problems, and Alacrity synergizes with Senna's Q speed. To finish off the rune page, I'd recommend 1 attack speed rune, 1 adaptive force rune, and 1 armor rune. Attack speed is once again for her Q, adaptive force is for extra damage, and armor is for some defense. Some other options include Perfect Timing, Cut Down, Legend, Bloodline, and adaptive force over attack speed. Perfect Timing can help save a life early game in a hard matchup, Cut Down adds extra damage, and Bloodline and Adaptive Force can be good options if not prioritizing attack speed for Senna's Q. Senna's build path, on the other hand, is the first big difference between playing her as an ADC and a support. For Senna ADC, the best core build starts with Manamune, Duskblade, and Boots of Swiftness. Senna has really bad wave clear and thus has to rely on spamming her abilities to push waves, and when played as an ADC, Manamune really helps with that. Duskblade adds more raw damage and synergizes with Senna's E, and Swifties are pretty much just the go-to boot option for Senna. Following the core build, you have the options such as Edge of Night, Infinity Edge, Rapid Fire Cannon, Guardian Angel, or Mortal Reminder. Edge of Night and GA are safer options, IE and Rapid Fire are offensive items, and Mortal Reminder is needed against tanky compositions. As for Senna support, the core build is going to once again include Swifties, Umbral Glaive, Edge of Night, and Duskblade. Umbral Glaive helps control the vision game better as Senna support, while also granting some decent damage. Edge of Night is super useful against engaged supports like Blitzcrank and Thresh, and Duskblade once again just adds that little bit of extra damage. Following the core build for Senna support, you pretty much have the same options, including IE, Rapid Fire, GA, or Mortal Reminder, as well as the addition of Ardent Sensor, which synergizes with Senna's healing from Q and shielding from her ultimate. Chances are, as a support, the game won't actually last long enough for you to get these items, but if you do happen to find yourself in a long game, those are going to be your best options following your core build. Next up, let's talk about the matchups. As strong as Senna may be late game after scaling with her Mist, her early game can be a little shaky. Senna struggles a lot against champions who can engage and poke her out of lane. This includes supports like Blitzcrank, Vel'Koz, and Xerath, and ADCs like Ashe, Misfortune, and Sivir. Champions like Blitzcrank and Ashe have easy and reliable long-range engage that is really easy to land on an immobile champion like Senna, while champions like Vel'Koz, Xerath, Misfortune, and Sivir, all these champions have long-range poke abilities that they can use to poke Senna out of lane before she can get the opportunity to trade back. On the other hand, Senna works well against scaling ADCs like Kog'Maw and Aphelios, and supports that lack early game presence like Braum and Taric. Senna may not have the best early game, but when matched up against champions like these, she can play super aggressive without getting punished, and this makes it extremely easy to win lane. Depending on the matchup that you're given will determine how to play the early game and the lane phase as Senna. In winning matchups, look to trade with the enemy as much as possible whenever your Q is up. Walking up with your ADC for a quick auto Q auto combo before backing out can help chunk your opponent out of lane little by little. If you want an extended trade, you can also look for a auto W, auto Q, auto combo before backing up. This is pretty much just blending your abilities together with an auto in between each one. As long as you have decent vision, you should be able to rinse and repeat these combos throughout the lane phase to maintain lane pressure and safely stack up on mist. In losing matchups, on the other hand, the main priority is still going to be to get mist as much as possible, but it won't be quite as simple. Instead, your objective is going to be to hang back in lane, let the enemy push, and look to collect mist that is too far away to auto attack with your Q. At the same time, be sure to hold on to your W to help peel back in case the enemy starts to go aggressive. Scaling to the mid to late game is still going to be your win condition in losing lanes, although it may take a little longer to help get to that power spike. Be sure to just hang back, play it safe, and focus on getting as much mist as possible without putting yourself in harm's way. Next up, let's talk about roaming and moving around the map. Since Senna is a marksman, roaming definitely isn't going to be one of her strengths. If you're playing her as an ADC, you probably won't be roaming around the map too much anyways, but even when playing her as a support, it's probably for the best that you spend the majority of your time down in the bot lane. Senna is far too immobile and squishy to roam around the jungle by herself, and even attempting to roam to other lanes won't be all too effective due to her lack of reliable engage. If you do, however, find yourself in a position where you're roaming around just trying to get a pick, try to utilize the ward Q combo as much as possible. This will allow you to get the longest range possible to apply the glacial augment slow without having to waste your ultimate. It may take some practice to get it down, but it can be super useful for chasing down opponents once you are able to get the hang of it. Next up, let's go over the late game and team fighting as Senna. Once again, since Senna is a marksman after all, her late game and team fighting is pretty much exactly what you would imagine it would be. The goal of a marksman is always to play in the backline, focus whoever may be in front of you, and try to survive as long as possible. Make sure you prioritize using Q for damage rather than healing your allies in team fights. Use W to hit frontline targets and prevent them from getting on top of you. Use E before fights or towards the end of fights to help chase down your enemies, but never use in the middle of the fights. And try to line up your ultimate to hit as many allies and enemies as possible. Follow all of these steps and you'll be winning games and climbing with Senna in no time. Well, alright then, ladies and gentlemen, that should just about wrap up the end of this video. Again, if you guys did go on to enjoy it or find it helpful, be sure to leave a like on the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already, and finally make sure you drop a comment down below letting me know what champion you'd like to see me do a guide for next. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching to the end of this one. I really do appreciate it, and I will see you guys in the next one.